So,
Okay.
we are here today in the Amsterdam, in the Houthavens, and we are at the head office of PVH, which is the holding of Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein. And next to me is sitting Fred van der Put, and he is research and development manager for the footwear division here. And we're going to have a talk with Fred because he knows a lot about materials. He's researching the whole day through, and Fred and I have known each other for a lot of years, and he has such interesting stuff to tell us and share with us, linking to collection plans, but certainly the materials used in it, working on some interesting developments, maybe some inside peaks in your job. So Fred, thank you for sharing your time with me, that I could interview you for the students in Rome. Maybe it's nice that you tell a little bit more about your job, because what is a research and development manager? What is he doing?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My role as a research and development manager in the footwear division, Tommy Footwear division, is really focused on finding materials that are suitable for our collections. But it's also, in my case, very focused on finding sustainable alternatives for a lot of the materials that are being used in footwear. Footwear as such within an apparel company is a very challenging product category, and there's a big range of materials being used in footwear. If you compare it to apparel, it's usually a mono material product. Cotton is a widely used material, so you have a garment, 90% of the garment is one material, and maybe there's some trims. In footwear in general, it can be over 20 different materials in one shoe.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a little bit where I focus on within the research and development arena.
Okay, that's super nice. And then, our class today is about the importance of materials for a collection plan. Can you share something about that? So because materials are so important, and we just had a chat before this video, maybe even more and more important. Can you give us some insights about that, how important a material is to work on a collection?
Yes, I think materials are important in many ways. First, they can determine for a big part the pricing of the product. So it's already helping you to focus on which price category you're developing a product. Is it a low end, mid, or high end? And certainly in the last few years, there's so much going on in development of material that is, from a technical perspective, super interesting, but also from a consumer perspective, very exciting, because there's so much new technologies in materials. Consumers are also open for these innovations. So yes, materials are definitely a key factor in developing a collection.
Great. And then when you do this research, can you give us a little inside peek in your job? How does your day look like? Where do you go? Are you here in the office talking to a lot of people? What is your scope? Can you tell us a little bit about that, because it's so new for a lot of students?
My scope is very focused on connecting with suppliers. Material fairs such as the Linea Pelle in Milan are very important fairs for us, where we source materials for our industry, in our case footwear. So this is where you also find the innovations or talk with the suppliers. What are they doing? What are peers doing in our industry?
But that's interesting, Fred, to interrupt you, because I'm very much about that you have a conversation. So you're not only looking at materials, but you actually have a conversation with each other, like what's going on, what are you working on? Is that a fact that you interact and that you connect?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's you have to understand what your suppliers are doing in this chain. I mean, the whole manufacturing is a chain where there's the idea of the designer, but at the end, then you have to develop the product, talk with the manufacturers, talk with material suppliers, and you have to sort of align everybody in that chain to come to that idea.
Yeah, I've written an article about the ecosystem, and actually that's more and more the case, that you work together on the end product, and not only, like linear, that you already have the end product in mind, but through connecting with each other, and the one brings in materials and the other. I can imagine, actually, now thinking about it, that Tommy Hilfiger or Calvin Klein is so big that you can also maybe give an assignment to a manufacturer. Is that a case sometimes, Fred, that you say, okay, we're working on this, we'd like to develop in this direction, can you help us with that? Is that also the case?
Yes, that's absolutely the case. From a, let's say, business perspective or understanding of the business, is that a lot of fashion brands are basically trading companies or are a brand.
Yeah.
They don't manufacture themselves. We don't own any factories.
Yeah.
We work with vendors, and through these vendors we can communicate and say, hey guys, we want to find more sustainable material options. What do you know in your field? How can you help us to reach to certain to find certain materials and to work collectively?
Exactly. That's what I mean. I think it's super interesting, and we will talk about that more in our class also. And Fred, you are working on a lot of projects.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the project that you have on the table here?
Yes, I can certainly.
Because I will look. This is what we have on the table.
Shoes, of course.
Yeah, and it's a
But
super nice
shoes
story.
I'm gonna give a little intro on.
Yeah.
Footwear is was usually very much focused on leather. There's a lot of the history of shoes is use leather. With the trend in sneakers, and there's a lot of different materials, man-made materials, like all these mesh sneakers that are being developed, and fly knits of this world. Yeah. So there's a lot of man-made materials being developed. The disadvantage of all those man-made materials is that they are all petroleum-based. It's all plastic, basically. So to try to find better solutions or better options in that field, we started to work with a material that is still a PU, polyurethane, but it's blended with bio waste. So there is an Italian company actually that invented this process, and they're using waste from the Apple industry to
it's
blend.
Such a cool label, also, yeah.
To blend with the conventional making.
I'm distracting Fred.
Yeah. So, the challenges with these sort of innovations is that you work with people that are innovators, and you have to sort of get that product into the supply chain. But this is now a sneaker that we developed with this innovation material. Still not 100% sustainable, but at least.
Is it already in the store, Fred?
It will be in store this spring. So we had
spring 2020.
Yeah, and from a product perspective, we started to develop it because I also believed in finding alternatives for, let's say, for plastics. And then at some point you see also that the market, because the cycle in developing a product is almost 12 to 18 months ahead. While you develop things, you see also that the market, the landscape of the consumer is changing. So when we launched the shoe, our expectations were relatively, let's say, low.
Yeah.
But then when we sold this to our wholesale customers and through our own channels, or started to sell it, we saw that there's a big interest in it. So we overarched basically what we expected.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes you have to do something or start with something and believe in it. And while the market and the landscape around you evolves, you might see that your choice that initially was maybe built on
a feeling,
gut feeling, was a right one when the landscape around you, the market, the consumer is also sort of adjusting or.
Yeah. And I think that I think I have a interesting remark, because I just told you that I have known Fred for a lot of years, and I think Fred, I'm a very promoter of creativity in all kinds of boardrooms and in jobs, and I think that the sensibility to be able to sense what will be going on is maybe also in your talent, because you have a very creative mindset, a sensibility for what is coming, and now you are in another field than at the start of your career. But does that make sense, or do you say no, that's crap, Isrid?
No, it does make sense. It's also a process of an individual where you're going through in your career.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and maybe when you're in the beginning of your career, you still tend to adapt much more to what's happening around you, and while you sort of get more experience, you can have your own your personal goals. I mean, you have corporate goals. We all work in business environment, but still you can say, okay, within this scope of a company, I can do my bit. I focus on what I can influence, and that can be relatively small, but at least you can influence it yourself. So I think that's where you should always try to be mindful
and that energy, because it's on the table. You had the gut feeling, and of course with a lot of people, your manufacturers, but because you have this gut feeling and you have this energy, you also have now a business case. Like, okay, this is what we really sensed very well when we sense what's going on in the market. So then we'll have to jump to the last question, Fred.
Yeah.
What do you think, what do you feel is going on? Can you give us a hint of a trend of the future? What are you looking at now? What will be important?
I think the most important trend for our industry is the development of materials. There's so much a blend of materials with biology into materials that, for me, and also because we use a lot of plastics in our industry, that is a very valid focus point to find better options. And while the industry evolves and new initiatives come up, we as a brand should try to embrace that and work with those innovations.
So have your radar there on the materials.
Have the radar on the materials and make, let's say, try to make a better product for more sustainable aim.
Super, and it starts with the material, exactly.
It starts with the material, then there's a lot of other factors that you can look at.
True, but the importance of materials in this class, in a collection plan and in a product, I think we zoomed in on that. I really want to thank you for your time, Fred.
Thank you very much.
Super nice. And we'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for the time, and thanks for the opportunity.
Super. Thanks, Fred.
Bye bye, everybody. Ciao, ciao.